The following story is also available as a read-only version. Check the link in the description if you're interested. Everyone was out. From his narrow balcony, Andrei could see at least 100 souls wandering through the night, their bodies an ever-shifting but always humanoid mass of shadow. Looking down, he saw the street below glowing. No wonder the souls wouldn't stay in the ground. To them, the rooftops and fire escapes had to be a fresh breeze in the desert. Andrei peered across the street, spotting his neighbor Yegor at his window, smoking a cigarette. Souls crowded the apartment behind him, surrounding the piano, where Yegor's wife was serenading them with Rachmaninoff. Andrei gave his neighbor a nod, and Yegor greeted back, a broad grin on his face. As the spirits were entranced by the music, he was sapping their essence with one of his strange contraptions. It looked like a blend between a vacuum cleaner and an electric kettle. The old man would make a good buck on the black market. The smell from below was a mixture of gasoline, rosemary and rain. Andrei quite enjoyed it, though with how frequent the streets were glowing these past few weeks, it was wearing out its momentousness. He wondered what caused the souls to rise from the ground so often this summer. The world wasn't much more troubled than ever. No major changes had affected the city, and there was nothing significant going on. He'd been taught that the streets always glowed most in times of great stress or impending doom, but it seemed as though that was just an old wives' tale. Come to think of it, his grandmother had taught him that. Perched atop the roof of Yegor's building, Andrei spotted a soul that stood out to him. The dark shape was squatting next to an old satellite dish, looking at him. It was strange indeed, unusual to the point of being unsettling. Normally one would have trouble grabbing the attention of a spirit for more than a moment. Yet there it was, its features shifting ever so slightly under the light smog, observing Andrei as though he was some great work of art. He did work at a museum, and he knew how crowded with souls its halls had to be right now. Maybe some of whatever spiritual pheromones made great works of art so attractive had stuck to him today. Andrei stepped inside to make himself a cup of tea. When he came back out again, there were 3 souls standing on that rooftop. They were all looking at him. It was unmistakable. Andrei glanced behind himself, above and below, into adjacent windows. They were all dark. The occupants were either not home or asleep. There was an ounce of fear in his stomach. He looked over to Yegor, who was blissfully ignorant of the strange events taking place above his head. If Andrei shouted across the street to ask for help, the spirits listening to Yegor's wife playing might disperse, and the old man would become angry. It was out of the question. Andrei scanned the rest of the neighborhood. It seemed as though the spirits on Yegor's roof were not the only ones watching him. All around, small crowds of black haze had gathered, staring at him. What in God's name was the matter? Why was he so interesting all of a sudden? He flinched when one of the souls began its approach. It was a young girl, walking along the phone line between Yegor's building and his, sure-footed as an equilibrist. Panic rose in him. This was too much. Shaking, he retreated into his flat, closing the balcony door and completing the hermetic seal that protected his home. No soul would enter here, and when the sun dispersed their nebulous figures in the morning, he would go over and ask Yegor if he knew what this meant. With trembling hands, he set down his cup of tea, only to almost jump out of his skin when he saw a small note card on his countertop. The word "Hello" was printed on it in cursive letters. A frown on his face, Andrei picked it up and turned it around. "I'm hoping the police will go public after this one," it said. Frightened, Andrei spun around, only to stare into the face of a pig. A cheap, plastic mask, burning mania peering through its eye holes, was only centimeters from his face. He didn't even feel the razor slash his throat. Only when a torrent of warm liquid started flowing from it did he begin to understand how he'd just been killed. His murderer took a step back as he fell over, going to his knees to look into Andrei's eyes as he bled out. This could not happen again. He had to follow this person, warn their next victim. Clutching his throat, Andrei sat on an air conditioning unit. A nurse had just returned from the late shift and was hanging up her coat. The streets were glowing. He had to warn her. If you liked this story and would like to hear more, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. A new short story is uploaded every Wednesday, and there will occasionally be another one in between if I find the time. Thank you very much for listening and have a great day.